I'll start recording.
All right, I
Are
guess
we both wearing blue?
it looks like it.
Well,
I
based
made the
on
big
this.
call of going without a collar, and it was a tough call for me.
Yeah, well, I have my classic floppy collar polo. Collars and Co. would not appreciate that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's you're a level above me already. I've got to like up my game.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I would venture to say that going collarless is upping your game.
Yeah, it's a power move, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
We probably shouldn't say that. Probably shouldn't say that. It's
It's
just
it's
evergreen, timeless.
That's right. Exactly. You're adding a location too. You've gotten strangely out of
Right.
focus on my end. I don't know if that works on yours, but I'm going to assume that everything's
Oh,
good on your end.
yeah, looks good on me. I got a level bouncing here in Descript.
Nice.
First time recording using Descript.
Yeah, nice shout out to the brand.
Yeah. Hey, we're gonna try and jam them all in.
Okay, sounds good.
Is that an Under Armour t-shirt?
No, it's not. Uniqlo.
I don't know if they do much sponsoring of podcasts.
You know, I'm also definitely out of the demographic
Really? Is that right?
for Uniqlo. Don't you think it's a younger brand?
I just have owned their socks and a zip-up sweatshirt, which I really like.
Very good. Yeah, Japan's answer to the Gap.
Oh, is that right?
I mean, it was at a time. That's how they positioned themselves when they first entered the U.S. market.
Okay. Well, that's not a bad positioning given Gap's tremendous rebound.
Oh yeah. All right. There we go.
Well, um, maybe we should get things started.
Let's do it.
Yo! Yo, MUNIR. What's in your LinkedIn feed?
Rob, my LinkedIn feed this week has been full of. Now I got to think about it. What have I been watching? The other day I saw something that was,
You said watching. That's interesting.
isn't it right? That is true. There are lots of videos. I was seeing a post actually recently about the amount of the percentage of long form LinkedIn posts that were AI generated. And I'm gonna misquote this number, so this is apocryphal, right? So it's only what I took away, not what the actual number might be, right? But I took away that was like 75% of long LinkedIn posts were likely AI generated. And the post and the commentary was that in a world of AI slop, uh, how are we going to, separate the wheat from the chaff, the signal from the noise, the good stuff from the bad, and the human authenticity, which becomes now what people are talking about as the cachet, the value, authenticity from noise basically, and just a bunch of stuff that we're throwing out there because we don't care. And then related to that, I'm still trying to search my memory banks for what there was another thing that popped up that I've been seeing for a while, but I noticed it this week and I was supposed to remember to talk to you about. But well, I'm sure it'll come up.
Buddy, we have Notes app, we have Google Docs, we have email drafts, which is a guilty admission. I use my email drafts for a lot of my notes, which feels like a terrible habit, but from a workflow standpoint, usually I'm in email. Usually I'm in my
Right,
inbox. And so the fastest path to creating a note is clicking on compose and then drafting it in the body of an email.
right.
And then what I'll do is I'll copy it and paste it into likely Google Docs,
Okay.
title it, date it, and then never refer to it ever again.
Interesting. Well,
Um,
sometimes I mean that was something else I was hearing about recently is the importance we've talked about this before. We've so over optimized ourselves that the white space, that time to think, has gone away. And you know what? It is related because somewhere related to this process of AI slop was the importance of the, somebody called it like the noodling, the doodling, the writing down, the scratching up of a draft and throwing it away. And what you're doing is providing yourself the gift of thought. And that process of writing and throwing away is part of the process of creation. And we have so over optimized ourselves to delivery that the reflection, the time for reflection, the time to create, to have that aha moment is getting lost. And I think that what you're doing is fabulous.
Well, thank you so much, brother.
Of
That's a
course.
very nice compliment. It actually reminds me of a book that you recommended by Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way.
A book I have given to many, many people in my life who seem stuck, and a book that I turn back to whenever I am stuck.
The idea that I'm thinking of in this particular moment in regards to the time, um, that time gives you the opportunity to be touched by genius.
Ah, yeah.
And oftentimes we have made genius into a person, we've humanized it, when genius's intent was always that it was a gift from the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And you borrowed it, you did not own it.
Right.
So someone couldn't be a genius,
Right.
but at a particular moment they could have been touched
Yeah, they're a
by
vessel.
genius.
It comes from above and it hits you. You hear about that with artists, who tell you that the song or the book came through me. It's a profound sort of thought that it doesn't live within us, but it lives within the universe, and we're just a vessel for it. I'm.
It also makes me think of her insistence on art being uh, prolific
Mm-hmm.
and creativity being prolific.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always of the idea that you needed to be inspired to be creative,
Yep.
and it totally changed my perspective on creativity,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually gave me permission to make
Yep.
mistakes. Whereas in the creation process, since I spent 16 years producing television programming and documentaries and such, it always felt like you had to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the idea of being prolific is more important than being exact.
You have touched on something that I have also been thinking quite a bit about in relation to how we work. And that idea of giving people permission to make mistakes. How are we in an age of AI? It started with this conversation about how does your business, or how is your business impacted by AI? And one of the things that I was speaking about is this capacity to allow folks to make mistakes, young people in particular. Like, how do you learn the job? You learn the job by trying and, maybe not being exact, maybe making a mistake, and giving people permission to make those mistakes. And the capacity, as well as a good leader, to provide people with the opportunity. There's the Harvard Business School. It's like latitude with limits. So you allow people latitude to make decisions so that they feel like they're empowered, but you limit the damage. So it's like you can make a choice up until like this point, and at this point you got to come to somebody just to, just so that you're okay. And it's more, the net, so that you don't allow people to fail so catastrophically that they're not encouraged to continue, but you allow them to make decisions and make some mistakes. Because if you can't make a mistake, or if you feel like you're always at risk of making a mistake, you play it so tight that nothing new, nothing can create out of that. And I like you're saying, I think that process of creation requires some amount of mistake, but maybe that mistake is to what you just said. It's the capturing of genius.
I love that. And I'm wondering in a hybrid remote world, the role that distance and video plays in managing mistakes
Mm.
versus being in person and having a sense of body language, a sense of, were there other meetings that were happening around me that I knew were happening? Like if you saw your boss go into the room with their boss and like
Oh
the
yeah,
activity that sometimes is around in a workplace that
yeah,
we grew up in,
yeah.
wondering, are they talking about me? And now there's no wondering because
Right,
things are happening outside of where you are.
right.
I'm wondering how you've approached managing a now fully remote um, team.
So that's a good question, and we're not fully remote for that very reason. So we went fully remote, and we had always had, well, not always. So we had started to implement work from home Fridays because the place where our physical office was located had a lot of traffic where our young people were going on the weekends and particularly on Friday. And so it was, this is what's great. Like we have an open dialogue with our team members, and the team members came and said, "Listen, we could be a lot more productive if we don't have to sit in traffic for 2 hours on a Friday afternoon on our way home." And we heard that and said, okay, great. So let's figure out a way to do work from home Fridays. And so we set everybody up to be able to work from home on Fridays before the pandemic happened. And so we were used to this kind of capacity to work together. We had trust as a management team and with each other. We developed trust, and we said, listen, if we implement this, it's like a little parietal. If we implement this, you have to show up for each other. You don't have to show up for me. You have to show up for each other. And we did find that there was a bit of social loafing. There were some people that kind of disappeared on Friday. And that didn't impact me, but that impacted team members. And it was the team members that policed those individuals because there's trust. And the idea, again, amongst the team members that did show up and were there to care for each other was, listen, you're letting down the team if you don't show up. And that's the environment that we want to be in, an environment of high performing team members who are all there for each other. And the organization then starts to defend itself against that social loafing. But what we found as we came back from the pandemic when everybody was remote is that young people in particular were having a harder time of assimilating good information and modeling good behavior. And it's not their fault. We and as management team members, we always take it on ourselves. If something's going wrong, we blame ourselves first and figure out like what could we do better to assist or support the program. And what we decided was that young people, like right out of college or first job or second job, it's probably better that they're in the office a little bit. It doesn't have to be all the time, but a little bit in order to model the good behavior that we have from people that have had more time in the workforce. And after a couple of years with us, then we have enough trust in each other that you can go do your own thing because you know how to show up. And so all new young employees work in the office. They work 3 days a week. So they get their Monday and their Friday off, and we trust them. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're in the office so that they can model the good behavior, or they can walk to the desk, or they can see what you're talking about. Like, how do the adults in the room, if you will, or how do their managers, or how do other people that have been at the company longer, how do they interact? How do they show up? And we have found that hybrid mentality, particularly again for the younger people, works really well. And as they get more ingrained in the company and knowing how to work with each other, if they come to us and say, hey, I'd like to move or I'd like to be fully remote, we then make accommodations for them.
I think that's a tremendous idea. You said self-actualization, and that's really interesting because decades ago, I remember you talking about that pyramid with self-actualization being on the top. Um, and I can't remember its origin. But I also
Maslow's
think that
hierarchy of
that's
needs, maybe. I don't know. I mean, somebody's probably built on top of that.
I I think it's been challenged since then.
Okay.
Is that something that you're
I
familiar with or no?
I haven't. it hasn't come to my attention what the challenges would be, but I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
things that are being challenged at the moment. Um,
it
and
is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, by the way.
look at me. I remember my college psychology classes. Um, so the I haven't heard specifically about those challenges. I've heard about a lot of challenges about a lot of things that I do and do not agree with. I believe that um, the pressure on self-actualization can be about the fact that everybody again is trying to over-optimize. But the concept of self-actualization, or I've heard criticism of, follow your dreams, right? Where Scott Galloway in particular, for example, is like find something you can make money at, just do that. And that's not necessarily self-actualizing, that's just being pragmatic. But I think that there's a path to self-actualization in being pragmatic. I mean, that I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. But I don't know what the criticism is, so I could have an
No
argument with
problem.
myself all day long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. Let's see how Descript gets us going. I feel like we should also have some sort of summary or recap, or I don't know how because I haven't scripted anything out,
All
which
right,
could
yeah.
be for
So
show
so
four.
so open open dialogue. Is it four? I thought it was only three, but okay, we'll keep going. Um,
This is three, but I'm saying
oh,
for show four.
you'll actually have a topic of conversation.
Maybe I'll have an outline.
Yeah. Well, you had asked about what's in my LinkedIn feed, but Rob, here's a chance for me to actually hear from you since you wind me up and watch me go. But what are you seeing in your LinkedIn feed?
Well, thanks for asking, Munir. Interestingly, um, over the weekend, and I don't know if this was a bug in the algorithm, but almost everything in my immediate scroll was from 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
And there was the first post was like 4 hours ago. I did a screen record as well.
uh-huh.
The first post was 4 hours ago, and then each subsequent post after that was 2 weeks, um, and maybe 1 week.
Okay.
It was prioritizing content from
A while ago.
a while ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I've seen that a lot. two
Oh,
weeks
really?
is like maybe the sweet spot for LinkedIn of delivering. I don't know if it's called evergreen content in this regard
All right.
because I don't think of LinkedIn as a place to consume media.
Okay.
Um, but if that's what we're creating, we're creating thought leadership.
Yeah.
Or we're creating announcements.
Yeah.
Um, this was an interesting observation.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I wonder if they're trying to tell you that you're not on enough. Hey, get back up to speed,
I,
man.
I'm not sure if LinkedIn did a Spotify Wrapped, which would be super interesting.
Yeah,
I have to think I'm in the top 1% of
right.
time spent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess I could look at Apple, and that would tell me, although it's not tracking my desktop
Right,
LinkedIn activity,
right.
which is substantial.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm curious if that is a trend or if that happened to be something that they were trialing over the weekend or if it was just a bug.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's fascinating. And maybe like, the New York Times has a Sunday edition that has sort of like everything you need to know. They have the weekend review, right? It's like maybe over the weekend they're like, this is your weekend review.
Wow. Wow.
You
I
you
like that.
well,
I
you
like
hit
that
you
thought.
hit that with your Spotify Wrapped. I mean, I'm just riffing, man.
So, one of the things, though, that I did think was interesting um, was Michael Gross, who is often in my feed. He is at Roku
Okay.
and works on subscription business insights.
Okay.
he posted something super interesting about the value of our attention and
Mm.
trying to attribute our attention to what it's worth to each platform.
Oh yeah. Whew.
Super interesting
Yeah.
work that I think is worthy of uh, a deeper conversation uh, in our next episode.
Yeah. I mean, when you start to break down um, attention, again, like this is the over optimized society that we're in, right? It's like if I can over optimize to your attention, and of course we always want more, and when the answer is um, we need you to spend less time on platforms, like young people, don't spend so much time on your platforms. And here we are creating and optimizing for your attention because that's what makes us money. And that's how, I can get you in front of your advertisers and you're this and you're that. And it's like at some point, we're cutting our noses off to spite our faces. And I don't have an answer for that because attention is finite at some point in time. So, when you start to get into these large scale analyses and you start to think about it, it's like, okay, there's 7 billion people in the world and each of them have about 16 hours a day. You can start to quantify the actual amount of attention that exists in our known universe. And then you can start to segment, out of that 7 billion people, the 2-year olds, maybe they don't have attention, but YouTube might say different. And so you start to like, there's a finite number of attention hours in this universe. And then you can start to quantify these platforms' values, and that becomes scary. And then you all, like you got to eat, sleep, and breathe at some point in time. And then if you're reading oh, that was what was popping up in my LinkedIn feed that I was looking at the over optimization of our health. And so I was getting a lot of these executive fitness coaches who are like, and a lot of posts that seem somewhat like overstated, and some of them may be true, but it's like, oh, it was like Larry Ellison is 81 years old and he follows a regimented fitness routine. He eats, air and salt and, nuts and twigs, and he doesn't have any alcohol, and he doesn't do this and he doesn't do this, and he lives in a hyperbaric chamber, and like, and I'm sure Larry Ellison is now the world's most richest man, so I'm sure he has a capacity to take care of himself that's much bigger than our own. But like George Burns, if you remember from our youth, how about that? Look at that. You're like, whoa, he pulled that out. George Burns smoked cigars every day and had a little cocktail with himself and lived to 104. He seemed pretty okay, and he was sharp until the end. It seemed like.
100 exactly.
Oh, is it 100? Thank you. God.
100
I
exactly.
mean, God. Like the man that
Our grandfather smoked from age 14 to age 80
right. Well, our
and
grandfather was
and
80 as
lived till
long as I knew him.
89.
Did we ever know how old he really was?
I think I have his birth certificate.
Oh, look at you. All right. But yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean
sure.
that was an age where, you know, you kind of did those things and it was okay because maybe it was because there was less cancerous stuff in our food. I mean, this is all the stuff that people are talking about now. But the it's the over optimization of being mindful to your health that I think is the problem. It's like we always bring everything too far. I think there's smart moderation, and I think moderation is the answer. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so what do I know? But you know, I think we probably have introduced too much meat in our diet because it became easy to do that. And anyway, but that's for people who have more experience in this than I do.
I'm sitting with all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Well, I
practicing
mean,
my
again, like,
my
run 5 miles a day, or not 5, but 3, and definitely, hey, listen, like, Exercise is important. I think we probably sit down way too much. I'm standing right now at my standing desk. I enjoy that. I try to get out and have a run. I'm getting older, so every once in a while I pull something, and then I, just listen to my body, and I don't push myself too far. And I try to minimize stress. Stress is awful. So,
Yes.
and then how in a society where there's this feeling of lack and this over optimization, you're adding stress. Like, oh my God, I'm not over optimized, so I must be doing something wrong. And that's also an environment that we try to put both our clients and our team members in. It's like, we're trying to minimize their stress too. Like the idea of making a mistake. Mistakes equal stress, especially in our society where everybody has to be perfect. So we try to provide that lens to it's okay to make a mistake and we'll figure it out together and you're not alone. And that again, I think fosters the environment of creativity. Another conversation I had just recently, because you wind me up and I'll just keep going. This is a tangential but related plot line. Capitalism. Capitalism is an inherently creative form of the economy. Discuss. So, in my world, or in my view, capitalism in the idea of this built on like the Darwin idea of like natural selection and the best idea will win. Well, in order for the best idea to win, you need to have this evolving and evolutionary capacity, which means that there are mistakes because for some people, evolution is a mistake. It wasn't like the one before it. You evolved into something new. And we have to provide this area of constant evolution in a capitalistic society because otherwise you just have like flatlining. Like there's no reason to come up with something new in an economic environment that doesn't encourage finding new things, right? So you just flatline. Well, it's good enough. We'll just keep going. Whereas the idea of evolution is kind of inherently capitalistic in my mind, and creativity then marries itself to capitalism. Then you get into these problems of what I was just talking about, over optimization. And so then where does that level balance itself out? I don't know, but those are things that I've been thinking about.
I actually think all of this ties back to audience development
Yeah.
and building a foundation. And as a creative, when you have a really strong audience and a loyal audience,
Mm,
you can either saturate that audience and lose attention
yep.
because you haven't changed and
Yep.
haven't grown your
Yep.
audience. Or if you do attempt to change, your loyal audience has backlash against that change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember listening to somebody who is in the spotlight right now, Bob Iger.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke to us during my time at Major League Baseball. We did our what we called industry meetings in Orlando at
Mm-hmm.
Disney World,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a keynote speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about the challenge of honoring the history and legacy of Disney
Right.
with progress
Yeah.
and new creativity.
Right.
And talk about a brand that really requires, and certainly at that time, let's say it was 20 years ago, really required delicate decision making
Mm-hmm.
as it pertains to its legacy and its foundation of what it was built on, with acquiring new IP
Right.
like Star
Right.
Wars. Really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the modern day storytelling. Um, yeah. And well, Disney's a whole and creativity versus buying, right? So they had an engine for new IP in Pixar, and they kind of killed it, or maybe it self-destructed, but they retrenched back into just making you know rehashes of their old IP, which again, it's working, but at what point in time do you get new ideas come in? And that's where that's where a new player like a Netflix comes in and starts to eat your lunch because they're like, all right, well, we just do this ourselves cheaper because it's our own IP. I don't know. It becomes interesting. But yeah.
Well, thank you, Munir. I've enjoyed our conversation today.
All right. Well, we'll do it again soon, I hope.
Inshallah.